Today, we're really digging into the Figma Config 2024 keynote transcript.
Yeah, it's always a huge event, sets the stage for design, for development.
Totally. And you can really see the community's fingerprint all over it, how design is just becoming so central to, well, everything in software now.
Right. So we've got the transcript here.
Yeah.
And the plan is basically to pull out the key stuff, give you the highlights, what you really need to know from those announcements.
Yeah, and why it actually matters for how you might work, right?
Exactly.
We'll focus on those three main pillars they laid out: cutting down complexity, boosting the developer experience, and of course the big one, AI.
Makes sense. Let's jump in.
So setting the scene, you had this packed room, right? People tuning in from all over the globe. The energy felt, well, pretty electric from what I could tell.
Yeah, and they kicked things off celebrating the community, which felt right, showing how people just take Figma and do these unexpected, amazing things.
Like those examples were wild. Shen doing Vector 3D with a plugin.
I know. And Ayana Mera with those fractal glass effects, just stunning.
No.
And double glitch building Space Invaders in Figma.
Space Invaders. I mean, that just shows you, right?
It really does. And it highlights how that feeds back into the tool itself. They listed a bunch of features for the last year: feed jam updates, compare changes, annotations.
Editor type support, variables, multi-edit, even those page dividers.
All stuff that came from seeing how people were using it or, where they were hitting wall.
It's that feedback loop.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the thread connecting this year's big news, too, around those three themes: complexity, devs, and AI.
Right. So let's tackle that first one: reducing complexity.
This felt like a direct response to, well, real talk from users. I've definitely heard folks say Figma's gotten maybe a bit overwhelming.
Absolutely. They even showed that tweet, remember? Someone joking they wanted features removed this year.
Huh, yeah. It rings true, though.
So instead of taking things away, they're doing what they called the next scariest thing: a redesign. UI3.
UI3, okay, what's the core idea?
Well, the most obvious thing is the toolbar moving. It's dropped down to the bottom.
Whoa, okay. Why?
The idea, they said, is to push your actual design content front and center, help you stay in that flow state. Less UI clutter, more focus on the canvas.
Interesting. That's a big shift in muscle memory for people.
For sure. But they showed how UI elements can kind of hide away more easily now, like with that spotlight feature or collapsible panels. The properties panel is smarter too.
How so?
Like it clusters X and Y coordinates together, which makes sense. And it prioritizes showing component props and variables when you select a component versus just a basic frame. Makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds useful. And resizable panels. Finally.
A small thing, but they're rolling it out gradually, apparently. You can switch back at first, give feedback. Eventually, though, the old UI goes away.
Okay, so UI is one aspect of complexity. What about auto layout? That can be a beast.
Oh, tell me about it. Especially getting all those nested frames just right. It's almost like coding sometimes.
Totally. I've spent hours fighting with it.
Right. So they've introduced Suggest Auto Layout. The goal is to make it less intimidating to start using it.
How does it work?
You select some elements, hit the button, and it tries to automatically create the nested auto layout structure for you.
Yeah.
Figures out spacing, fill settings, that kind of thing.
Okay, that could be a big time saver, especially for initial setup.
Yeah. They also mentioned that drag and drop thing, when you drag something into an auto layout frame and it snaps into the stack.
But you wanted it positioned absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they reminded everyone about holding the Ctrl key while dragging to override that. Just keep its absolute position.
Good tip. Keep that one handy.
Definitely. They did add a little caveat, though. Suggest auto layout probably works best on simpler, smaller groups of elements for now.
Makes sense. Don't expect miracles on super complex stuff yet.
Not yet, anyway.
And then simplifying things, even before you get deep in the editor, UI kit's got an update.
Yeah, they're working closely with Apple and Google, so you get the latest iOS 18 kit, the Material 3 kit, right there in Figma.
And easier to navigate.
Seems so. A new assets panel, better sorting, searchable within the kits themselves.
Nice.
But the really cool part is how they integrate with variables and modes. So you grab a component, and you can just flick a switch.
For dark mode or different themes?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Or switch between, say, mobile and tablet layouts. It just adapts based on the variables defined in the kit.
Okay, and that ties into the developer side, too, you mentioned.
Big time. These kits use something called Code Connect. We'll get more into that, but basically, they provide code snippets directly in dev mode. Swift UI, Compose, React.
So the components in the kit are kind of pre-built in code already?
That's the idea. Smoother handoff. Just note that Those specific kits with Code Connect are on the Pro plans and up.
Got it. They also touched on some friction points outside the editor itself, right? Like for freelancers or agencies working with clients.
Yeah, billing and sharing came up, like the awkwardness of adding clients and maybe incurring extra seat costs for people who just need to peek occasionally.
That's a real pain point.
Totally. They admitted it's a gap and shared some future stuff, sounding a little nervous about announcing it so early. One thing is called Figma Connect.
Figma Connect, like Slack Connect.
That was the analogy, yeah. A dedicated shared workspace for client work, but, and this is key, using your existing paid seats, not forcing extra costs.
Oh, that would be huge. Wow.
Target is early 2025, so still a ways off.
Okay. And something about transferring projects.
Yeah, making that smoother when an agency hands off work to a client. Improvements coming in the next few months on that.
Good. And billing controls.
Top priority for the next 6-12 months, they said.
Huh?
They highlighted 2 recent changes. More notifications before an upgrade happens.
And the option for admins to require approval for editor upgrades.
Right. Gives admins that choice, frictionless upgrades, or tighter cost control. More flexibility.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift over to theme 2, the developer experience. Big focus on dev mode, obviously.
Yeah, dev mode. Launched last year, right?
Yeah.
Aimed squarely at devs, giving them what they need to inspect designs, grab specs, understand the build.
And it seems to be catching on. They mentioned 4 million designs marked ready for dev.
Pretty significant number. And they stressed again that community feedback drove the recent improvements like annotations and compare changes.
But they also acknowledged the messy reality, didn't they? Design files aren't always neat and tidy.
No, they called it a bunch of riffs, which I thought was pretty evocative. For a developer, finding the right version, knowing what actually changed, it's tough.
So what's new in the ready for dev flow to help with that?
Okay, several things. First, if a frame was marked ready but then gets edited, it gets this new yellow indicator, an edited state.
Ah, clear signal something's changed.
Exactly. Then the designer can mark it ready again, but this time leave a note saying what changed, like increase spacing here, adds that communication layer.
Okay.
Then there's a whole new ready for dev view. Instead of the whole messy canvas, developers see only the frames marked work in progress or ready for dev. Cuts out the noise.
That sounds really helpful. Filtered view.
And within that, there's focus view. Select a frame, and it hides everything else, just that one design. Plus, it shows a history, like a list of all the changes made just to that frame over time.
Oh, wow. So you can see, okay, they tweaked the padding here, then adjusted responsiveness.
Precisely. And you can even click back through those versions in focus view to visually see the diffs.
Yeah.
Makes tracking changes much easier.
Nice. Any updates to prototypes?
Yep, in the prototype viewer, there's a new responsive setting. Lets a dev quickly see how the design adapts across different screen sizes right there without having to ask the designer or guess. Builds confidence.
Okay. And closing the loop.
Right. Developers can now mark a frame as completed in dev mode. That sends a notification back to the designer, like, okay, this is built.
Completes the cycle.
Exactly. It's all about trying to sync teams up better in that often chaotic back and forth.
Makes sense. Now, they also talked about design systems and consistency, or lack thereof sometimes.
Yeah, the classic problem. You have great design system in Figma, beautiful components, but then developers end up rebuilding similar things from scratch in code, not using the official code component.
Leading to inconsistencies, right? Little visual bugs, maybe accessibility issues.
Extra work, definitely. So the big answer here is Code Connect, which is now officially out of beta.
Code Connect. We heard about it with the UI kits. How does it work generally?
It lets you link your Figma components directly to your actual code components in your repo. It uses some files in your code base and an SDK they provide.
SDK, Software Development Kit.
Yeah, basically tools to tell Figma how your design component properties map to your code component props. Then you publish that connection.
And the payoff is?
When a dev inspects that component in dev mode, they don't see generic CSS. They see the real code from your design system needed for that specific instance.
Whoa, okay, that's a game changer.
And it works with the component playground in dev mode too. Tweak a variant in the playground, the code preview updates instantly with the code for that configuration.
So it's always in sync. They showed an example with React.
Yep, showed a button, changed its variant, and the React code snippet updated. They mentioned support for React Native, iOS, Android as well.
Sounds powerful. Did they share any results?
Yeah, they had a quote from Spotify who rolled it out, called it a no-brainer, saved engineering time, quick implementation. Pretty strong endorsement.
Okay, availability check, Code Connect.
Out of beta, generally available. The UI kit integration part is pro and up. The other dev mode flow updates the views. Statuses are on Oregon Enterprise. All available starting today, they said.
Gotcha. Okay. Deep breath. Let's move to the third giant theme, AI.
The sparkle icon. That's the entry point, right? In a new toolbar. The actions panel.
Right. That's where commands live, but it's also the AI hub. What's their overall philosophy here?
Seems to be about tackling real pain points, not just AI for AI's sake, helping designers explore more options faster, the option space, and just be more creative. They even mentioned Jordan Singer's early AI plugin work as inspiration.
Cool. And they broke it down into 3 areas.
Yeah. Getting started, like the blank canvas problem, finding what you need, and staying in the flow, speeding up tasks.
Okay, let's start with getting started. Make design.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tackles that staring at a blank screen feeling, or just quickly mocking up variations.
How does it work? You just type.
Pretty much. Give it a prompt. Pizza Finder app with map and list. Or that quirky, sustainable Middle-earth architect website.
Uh-huh. Okay. And what happens?
It uses LLMs, like ChatGPT tech plus diffusion models for images. And it lays out screens, initially using Figma's own built-in design systems.
The demos look pretty slick. Can you tweak it?
Yeah, you can adjust colors, radius, spacing, fonts, and you can refine with more prompts like add a contact form. They showed a whole gallery of outputs, ride-sharing, finance apps, task trackers, even a cyberpunk social media look.
Okay, but the burning question. Can I use my design system?
The million-dollar question. They said that was the #1 piece of feedback, and the answer right now is not yet.
But it's the goal.
Absolutely. They were very clear that's the direction. They even showed some early experiments, like using community kits, and that Google collab using Material 3 and Gemini, which looked quite sophisticated.
So the vision is eventually generating options using your specific brand and components.
That's the aim, to go beyond generic layouts. But, that requires training models on UI, on design systems, which means training on Figma data.
Right. How did they address the data privacy side of that?
They were pretty upfront, emphasized transparency and controls for admins. Effective August 15th, Starter Pro plans are opt-in by default, or Enterprise are opt-out by default, but you can change the setting, and they committed to privacy regardless.
Okay, good. They addressed it.
Yep.
When can we try Make Design?
It's in beta, rolling out with that new UI3 beta. And Figma's covering the AI costs for 2024. They'll update on potential fees in 2025 based on usage.
Got it. Second AI area, search, finding stuff.
Yeah, solving that. Where did I see that screen problem? Especially screenshots floating around in Slack.
Oh, the screenshot hunt. Happens all the time.
So they have a few ways. Search for similar, paste a screenshot, it finds similar screens in your file. Super handy.
Wow.
Search by text string, type text you remember, like confirm your pickup, find screens with that text.
Yeah.
And search by drawing. Sketch something rough, like a circle with crosshairs.
And it finds matching icons or components, like the center tool.
Exactly. Pretty clever.
Does it search outside your own files?
Yes. It can search the whole Figma community, too. So you can find cool stuff, pull it in, and it attributes the creator. Great for discovery.
That sounds really useful. Availability.
Visual search within your team's files is live now with the AI rollout. Community search is coming soon.
Okay. Third AI area, staying in the flow, speeding things up.
Right. Less repetitive clicking, more designing. They use that recipe app demo for a bunch of examples.
Like what?
Suggest to replace content. Say you duplicate a recipe card component. AI could look at a list of ingredients you have and suggest filling the text fields. You can also just drag text or images onto components and it figures out where they go.
Smart content filling. Nice.
Then there's make an image, generate image from text, like lemon bars. Though they admitted it had some beta moments in the demo.
Happens. What else?
Rewrite text, change tone, generate descriptions, remove background for images always useful, translate text layers.
Translation seems practical.
Yeah, and the cool thing they showed was how translating to German broke the layout because the text got longer.
Exposed an auto layout issue.
Exactly. Then they fixed the main component's auto layout, fixing it everywhere. So AI helps with the task, but also surfaces design issues.
That's actually really insightful. My favorite, though, might be...
Name layers.
Yes. Instantly rename layers based on content. Sign me up.
Total time saver. And one more big one in this category. Make prototype.
Ooh, tackling those prototype noodles.
AI looks at your screens and automatically draws connections, trying to figure out the likely user flow.
Automatically wires up a basic prototype.
That's the idea. And you can preview it in the viewer, check responsiveness, etc.
When are all these staying in flow features available?
They're all in beta, rolling out alongside UI 3 beta as well. Make design, team search, these flow features. Make prototype all beta for now.
Okay, wow. That's a lot on the AI front. But there was one more thing.
Indeed. Not just features, a whole new product. Figma Slides.
Figma Slides. Okay, tell me about this. Where did it come from?
Apparently started as an internal hackathon project. Codename Flies.
Flies? Seriously?
Yep. CEO joked he promised not to launch anything called Flies, so Figma Slides it is.
Why build a slide tool, though? Aren't there enough already?
Well, their point was that people were already making millions of presentations in Figma. 3.5 million last year, they said.
Wow, really? Despite it being kind of clumpy for that.
Exactly. People wanted the design power, the collaboration, but dealing with broken prototype links for navigation, notes on the canvas, painful exports.
Yeah.
It was an ideal.
So Slides is purpose-built for presentations, but with Figma DNA.
That's the pitch. Collaboration, storytelling, but leveraging Figma's strengths. They showed some nice details, like text color auto-adjusting when you change the background. Smart.
And navigation.
A grid mode for a bird's eye view, easy reordering, slides just reflow.
What about bringing the content in?
Easy to pull slides from different files or templates, they called it, making a Franken deck.
Yeah.
But you can apply styles easily to keep it consistent.
And animations.
Yep, bringing stuff like Smart Animate over for transitions. Plus, a proper presenter view with speaker notes.
Is AI involved here too?
Uh-huh. Things like adjusting tech tone, make it more concise, more professional,
Yeah.
or even generating a full presentation draft from an outline.
Okay, but what makes it really Figma?
This is the key bit. You can copy-paste directly from Figma Designs.
Yeah.
And there's a design mode inside Slides.
Design mode in Slides.
Yeah. You get access to core Figma tools, auto layout, vector editing, typography right there to tweak slides, and the edits stay editable. It blurs the line.
Whoa, that's different.
And they push that idea, further rethinking presentations as more interactive.
How so?
You can embed live Figma prototypes directly into a slide, interact with them during the presentation, even spotlight others interacting.
Live prototypes and slides. Okay, that's cool.
And built-in audience engagement tools,
Huh?
polls, reactions, alignment scales, making it more of a two-way street. They demoed voting on feature excitement, even voting on the name Flides.
Ha! They actually voted on flies versus slides.
Seems like it. So Slides rolling out of beta now. Templates available, free for everyone in 2024. Then in early 2025, it'll be free on starter plans, maybe $3 to $5 a month on paid plans.
Okay, interesting move. Anything else mentioned quickly?
Yeah, a few smaller things.
Yeah.
Redesigned desktop app tabs, updated new tab page, new file browser look.
Oh, and pages in FigJam.
Right, multi-page FigJam files.
Yeah.
Apparently used a lot internally already.
So, wrapping up the keynote's message, what was the big takeaway?
It felt like in this coming age of AI generating stuff, the real value, the differentiator, is craft. Human insight, detail, vision.
And Figma sees its role as enabling that craft.
Yeah, expanding what's possible, but also focusing on quality usability, empowering designers and developers.
Oh.
They pointed to the closing keynote with Jesper for more on that.
And lots of thanks to the team and community, naturally.
Of course. So yeah, quite a packed keynote, big UI redesign, major dev mode upgrades like Code Connect, a whole suite of AI features, and a brand new product in Figma Slides.
It definitely feels like a significant push on multiple fronts, trying to smooth out workflows and boost capability.
For sure. That message about AI freeing people up for craft is interesting.
Yeah, but it leaves me wondering, with something like Figma Slides bringing design tools, interactive prototypes, audience interaction into the presentation itself, what does craft even mean then? When the lines blur that much between designing, building, maybe even persuading, what new kinds of creative expression does that unlock?
That's a great question. Definitely something to mull over as these tools keep evolving.